Spring of 1965. I was 10 years old, and like any other day, when school got out, I ran home. It took me about 5 minutes. Changed my clothes. Made a beeline out the back door of the house. Cut through the neighbor's backyard over to the street that was behind my house. Directly across the street was where my friend lived at the time. Behind his house, and along the entire length of the road, were these woods. They ran probably a length of a mile down the road, and a couple hundred yards across. My friend and I had been talking about making a fort out in the woods. Every kid had a fort. A place you could go and chill. Hide from your enemies. So we set out and poking around the woods, and there was this path that went through the woods that some of the neighborhood people used to get over to the stores and the mall that were on the other side. And one side of the woods was your typical tree here, tree there, easy to navigate through. The other side, there was a creek on the edge of the woods at the other end. So everything was really, there was a lot of undergrowth, real thick. We decided somewhere in there was where we wanted this fort. So in order to keep the fort camouflaged, we made our way through all this thick undergrowth, a couple of feet, and then we started making a path. We were cutting stuff down and went into this part of the woods and then hooked back around and found a spot where we thought we could clear. We had these big plans. He was going to ask his dad for some wood, and it was going to be great. As usual, our imagination was way better than anything that was going to happen. But we proceeded. It took us till dark to clear the spot. Right before we were ready to leave, we heard people walking on the pathway, cutting through the woods. And it dawned on both of us that there was no way out of this place except the way we came in. And if anybody ever found us out and came into where we were, we wouldn't have any way to get out. So we decided the next day we'd come up with an idea for a back entrance or a back exit to get out. Came back the next day, and the only thing that we could come up with was there was another path further up the neighborhood that those people used for cutting through the woods. We guessed we'd have to make a path about 50 yards in order to meet up with that other path. So we started cutting. out in the middle of the woods. As we got a little further away from all this creek undergrowth, the center of the woods was more like the tree here, tree there bit. We got to this one spot and decided to take a rest. I was looking at this tree. Had a root coming out of it that was above the ground for about 4 feet before it went back into the ground to anchor the tree. Almost looked like a bench. While I was looking at this tree, I got this rush. I felt like I had the whole universe in the palm of my hand. Absolute euphoria. It had happened to me before, and I didn't know what it was till I got into college and was reading about Abraham Maslow's theory of peak experiences. Basically what it is when everything's going really well for you and certain elements in your life are well balanced, your brain has like this massive orgasm. It's a great experience. Naturally, I didn't say anything because it's a hard thing to describe to anybody else. We proceeded on, broke through to the other path, tickled to death with our accomplishment. But like every other project, we never went back to it. We probably got involved with building a go-kart or who knows what else we were doing. But that tree spot where I had that peak experience is going to come back in my upcoming videos. Anyway, about a year went by. It was summertime. I was playing in the neighborhood. A kid from the other end of the neighborhood came down and was causing some trouble, and I threw an apple at him and hit him square in the top of the leg, and he started bawling and ran back up to the other end of the neighborhood. Brought these kids back with him. Well, they all started running after me. And I took off into the woods, not knowing where I was going to go. Remembered the path. And at this point, the woods were just totally green. The undergrowth was even more than it was in the spring before when we had cut the stuff down. But I found the path, ran to that tree, was sitting there resting. I could hear the other kids trying to make their way through all these brambles and pricker bushes, and it was amazing. I figured that they were going to wait for me out on the main path to come out. I took off down the other end of the path we had made, met up with the pathway further up the neighborhood and got away from them. It was pretty amazing. So when I tell my stories in the trilogy video. I'll come back to the story, and the video after that about discovery. I'll come back to it as well. Thanks an awful lot for watching.